Good evening, afternoon, morning, nighttime. Whenever you see this podcast, we are back with the Hardware Pod after a busy week last week. We kicked off our partnership with the HBCU Pigskin Showdown last week, and it's continuing at a fast pace, and we're excited for it. But, we're back to Hardware this week with an episode and a special guest. Guest I'm excited about. If you know me, you know my Northeast roots. You know I love, the history of the game. And we have probably one of the better stories in the All-Star Game season because we have a guy who came from a historic program. If you've never heard of the NESCAC, the New England Small College Athletic Conference, then do yourself a favor and look it up. Some great rivalries, some traditional programs, including Bates, where our guest, Brendan Costa, who lit it up for the Bates Bobcats this year at quarterback. Brendan, thank you for coming on. And yeah, do you guys have anything to say to open this up?
Well, thank you to Omar. Thank you, Jackson, for having me on. I'm really excited to kind of bring to the light for the Northeast. I feel like we kind of get swept under the rug, especially in the NESCAC, just because we're a bunch of small schools, but we play some good ball up there. So I'm excited to talk about it for sure.
Football is football, right? So no matter what level, always competitive, always going to be rivalries. And it just so happens that that you guys play and some of the best, man. Like it's legit. So man, I'm excited to get it.
Yeah, so just for a primer, the NESCAC, they're called the Little Ivies, great academic schools. And if you've been following football for a long time on a national scale, you probably heard of the biggest little game in America, Williams-Amherst. In fact, in 2007, that game was on College Game Day. College Game Day went up to Western Massachusetts for that one and aired from that rivalry game, which I wish College Game Day did more Division III shows like that because, there's so many great Division III rivalries. Like we talk about the biggest little game in America, the Monon Bell, Wabash, and DePauw. You can go on, but I won't for this podcast. Bates, of course, is in that mix. A lot of history, too. We're talking like before Walter Camp established like the main rules of football that we know of today. So before I go on my nerdy rant, I'll start off with my first question. And this is a pretty basic one we ask any guest. Like, who do you model your play off of, Brendan? Because your tape was electric. It was really cool, honestly. So really wide open play, and we enjoyed it, honestly.
Awesome. So I mean, I was born in 1998 in New England, so Tom Brady's probably like my favorite player to ever play football. But I don't play like him, so it was kind of hard to model my game after him. He's more of a drop back guy. I'm a guy that likes to get out of the pocket and kind of run around a little bit. So I would definitely say I like to take after guys like Russell Wilson and guys like Doug Flutie, who's from Massachusetts. Guys like that who are on the shorter side, but definitely have good arms and kind of get out of the pocket and just kind of make things happen. So I'm definitely watching Russell on Sundays. I'm excited to see him play for the Broncos this season. I think that's a great thing for him in his career. But yeah, definitely guys like Russell Wilson and Doug Flutie. And I was a big Johnny Manziel guy when he was at Texas A&M growing up. So guys like that.
I mean, yeah, shoot, we love Doug Flutie. I feel like Russell Wilson's a very popular player that people like quarterbacks model their play off, at least on our podcast. I feel like, I know last week, Jet Duffy, as part of our partnership, he mentioned that he emulates Russell Wilson. And I feel like someone else said that like they emulate Russell Wilson, but he's a very popular player to really imitate the play of. But I love the Doug Flutie reference, being a shorter guy myself, Doug Flutie's the hero of us short kings, so I'll toss it to Jackson.
Definitely. Hey, so with Russell Wilson, so many players looking up to him says a lot, right? The guys are actually playing the game and forming the game right now. Look up to Russell. It says a lot about him. So, Brendan, I'll go into my first question. You guys did not play the 2020 season due to COVID, as a lot of smaller schools didn't. And then the next year, you had the best the best season of your whole career. Was there really any correlation between the extra time off and the good season? Was it more time to prepare? Like you tell me what went into that.
Yeah, so I originally wasn't going to come back to Bates. I was just going to finish my degree and kind of graduate and move on. But so I'd gotten home in 2020 in December, and I decided, I got one more year of eligibility. I might as well do it where it all started. So I really, in that off season from January to August, I really learned how to prepare the right way, like watching film the right way and taking care of my body the right way. It's the first time I ever hired a personal trainer to kind of work on my body with me and make sure that I was as mobile and quick and strong, kind of getting ready for the season. So I definitely think having that extra time off and that time being at home, because I had to take the semester off to be eligible to come back in the fall. So being at home, working with my team and kind of the guys that I work out with at home, it gave me a different perspective. So I had a different, and obviously football is physical, but it's just as much mental as it is physical. So I kind of was able to use my mental game and improve that and kind of connect it with my physical game. So definitely the time off helped for this past season for sure.
So you could say you're a former New England quarterback who took some time off and then came back and had the best season of his career. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, I had a great year, but it just goes to show with our team. And if you look at the past for Bates, like we haven't been that much of a powerhouse, but this past season we broke a lot of records as a team. We had guys who were finally getting their respect in the league, and it just goes to show kind of how our attitude has changed as a Bates college football program. And I love my guys, and a lot of guys that are seniors now are deciding to use their extra year of eligibility this year to kind of go back. So I was just glad to be a part of this past season for Bates. It was a great year, and there's going to be better years coming.
Bates is definitely going into next season with a lot of momentum for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a losing record of a season does not mean there wasn't a lot of progress made and a lot of momentum built. So that's awesome. Yeah. Looking forward to that next year.
Totally agree.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jackson. I mean, I feel like in leagues where schools have a lot of similarities, like the MAC, a lot of shared geography, you get like a lot of parity. And yeah, definitely that forward momentum will help Bates next year. So I guess more on the NESCAC as well. You sort of mentioned the extra year of eligibility, no red shirts, and I think Division III in general, definitely not the NESCAC. In this age of NIL, there's hardly any more true, I guess, sort of amateur environments in college football. You think about the Ivy League, Division III as a whole, especially the NESCAC. So what was that like playing the NESCAC, playing with that sort of in that great academic environment, and also only playing conference games?
Yeah, I mean, so winning the league title is the biggest thing for us because we don't go to the playoffs. So that's why games at the end are always like the big rivalry games, kind of like what you said with Amherst and Williams. Say Amherst is 8-0 and Williams is 8-0, well then they're playing for the title in that game. And so playing for Bates in those small school leagues, I mean, every week is a big game, and obviously like you don't want to fall into a hole too early. And it's very competitive every week, and I feel like there are some games that will definitely be lopsided, but every week any team can win, as we've seen in this past year. Even Bowdoin, who is historically not a powerhouse just like us, but they picked up some wins against teams that they probably shouldn't have beat. And same with a team like Colby, like all those small Maine teams that have to play all the teams in Mass and Connecticut kind of came into their own this year. And it just goes to show how competitive the league is. I think the players in that league could play at higher levels, but playing in an academic league like that, it's the truest form. And I don't want to speak just for my league, but I think it's one of the purest forms of being a student athlete, because the academics are not easy, obviously, and that kind of comes first. And a lot of the professors will support you with your athletics, but they will demand a lot in the classroom. So being a true student athlete is something that I'm very proud of, and I know a lot of people are very proud of in the league.
Absolutely. I mean, you summed it up like right there. Like in this league, and I'm not knocking anyone with pro aspirations, but a true student athlete is like becoming rarer and rarer these days. And I really commend guys like you, the rest of your NESCAC compatriots, the Ivy League, and of course the service academies for continuing to walk that walk.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't sound like that the NESCAC is ever going to be an option for North Carolina. I'm just saying. Something I'm always fascinated from a draft evaluation standpoint is how playing multiple sports in high school or college can help you as in your football career. Look at Patrick Mahomes playing baseball at Texas Tech, Joe Burrow being Mr. Ohio high school basketball. And high school, you were all conference basketball and track
Yeah.
back in high school. How did that help in your football career?
So obviously basketball is a lot of conditioning, just a lot of running, a lot of cutting really, really quickly. And I feel like being also like a captain of that team helped me with my leadership skills. But track was a decision I made my sophomore year, actually, because when I was a freshman, I played baseball. But when I transferred to my high school, because I was at a different high school my freshman year, when I transferred into my new high school my sophomore year, I decided I was going to do track to help my football abilities. And obviously that's getting faster, that's lifting every day, getting stronger, because I would throw the javelin and I would run sprints and I would jump. So I'm working on explosion, I'm working on strength, I'm working on speed. And that started in March and that would go right through August, basically. So that would, by the time I got to camp, I was already in better shape than a lot of guys who would take the spring season off. And my parents were very heavy on doing 3 sports in high school and staying in shape and kind of staying on top of your on top of your studies and just staying healthy and staying out of trouble, obviously. So track definitely was something that I love to do, and I miss it so much. But it definitely helped me on the football field just to become a better athlete, and kind of take that next step.
I think that's huge. And if you're in high school and maybe listening to this, I think that's a really valuable lesson, because it seems like so many kids now are, hiring a private tutor, in just one sport and focusing that. And you're going to get burnt out if your goal is actually
Yeah.
to get all the way as a professional, right? So, hey,
Yeah.
play multiple sports in high school and possibly even college. Why not? As Brennan just said, helps your athleticism.
I tell every athlete I meet that's at a younger age than me right now, because right now I'm currently working at my old high school while I'm on the job search and all, and kind of training to hopefully continue my career. And I tell them all the time, don't take a season off, just do something, because it keeps you on that schedule, it keeps you in that mindset, and it takes care of your body the way it needs to be taken care of, especially for football players. I tell all of them, if you're not going to play baseball beyond and you're not very fond of baseball, just go do track. It's not as I mean, it's obviously very demanding, but it's going to help you in every facet of the game in football and just make you a better athlete.
You don't have to be Dion, just do something, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, no, great advice, Brendan. I really appreciate it, because you sounded like my coaches in high school, honestly. And if we do have any young high school age viewers, take those words to heart for sure. I gotta say, your parents, my parents, they're both the same, because they pushed me to be a 3-sport athlete too: football, track, and debate. But on that note, I got to ask you about just going back to the regular season this year with the game against Bowdoin, the rivalry game out there in Maine. You were pretty close to the single season total offense and passing record. Of course, you're trying to get the win, but how much was that record on your mind?
Not even really as much as you would think. I knew I was close in passing yards, and I had already had the total yards record. So I knew eventually I was going to break that, just because of the work I put in the offseason. I said, I wasn't really worried about it. I was just worried that we were down by like 14 really quickly, and our offense was stalling a little bit. So, and in the first half, I don't even think we scored a point. I think we were down 14-0. And then we came out in the second half and put up four quick touchdowns and ended up winning the game. But those records, I definitely knew I was close, but they weren't on my mind during the game. I just don't think that's fair to my team. But I know if I'm getting those records, I know that I'm helping my team win games. So I put all of my faith into my receivers. I have great receivers, or had great receivers, but they're awesome, and that record's just as much theirs as it is mine, because they're the ones that caught the football. So I couldn't have that record without them. So all the glory to them. So yeah, I really wasn't worried about those records, and there was no way I was losing a boat in my senior year. It just couldn't happen. So that's what I was really focused on.
I mean, so you're telling me that like on like a second or third and one, like you weren't trying to call like a jet sweep pop pass, like because that's passing yards. Like you're telling me like you weren't even like thinking about doing that. Okay, I believe you.
No, but so like especially in that game, I think my average for a completion was like 30 yards, because I had a bad game passing, but everyone sees the 4 touchdowns. I mean, I went 9 for 25, maybe. I didn't have a great day throwing the ball, but all of my balls were just going, they were deep. Those yards ended up piling up a little bit. So no, I was not, but I do have that play in the playbook, and I wish we called it more because that's more passing yards for the offense. I love that play, so definitely.
So we got you two bit to it. All right, that's great. Now I'm just playing. We won't incriminate each other that, but no, that's just great to hear. Team first mindset too, and I mean the way you speak about the Bowdoin rivalry, I want to investigate more about how fierce this rivalry is.
Yeah, so historically we've been two of the lower teams in the league, just from a record standpoint, but we have some great players on both sides. So really starting in 2018 is where I really started to see the rivalry heat up a little bit when I was a sophomore. I didn't play that year because I was hurt, but they beat us at their place for their first win in like 2 years, and their students stormed the field. So we were like, okay, we remember that. So 2019, we played them at our place under the lights, the first night game in Bates history. And we beat them by a lot. Like we really took it to them that night. And then our students stormed the field. So that was in 2019. So then they said, okay. So then there was no season in 2020. So this past year was a big game. So we were playing there, and we ended up beating them by 1 point, 25-24 or whatever it was. So our students stormed their field. So that's kind of becoming a little part of the rivalry. And I'm sure we have great respect for each other. I have great respect for those guys. But when it comes to the field, we don't like each other very much, because we're always fighting, because we know that every year that win can swing either way. So we know that there's no way we can lose the Bowdoin. And I'm sure that's their mindset, that there's no way that we can lose the Bates. So yeah, our rivalry isn't as talked about as much as the Williams or the Amherst or the Wesleyans and the Trinities. But I think our rivalry is great for the league. And it's definitely great for our schools, and it's a lot of fun. Those games are packed. I think we had 6,000 to 7,000 people there this year. Yeah, so it's definitely one of the better rivalries to me in the league. And I'm not being biased, but it's true.
I gotta say, like, you mentioned that, like, these before I kick back to Jackson, like these gentlemanly rivalries between like the smart schools, like they have their chippy moments. Like, I remember 2018 at Fenway, you had like the Harvard running back flipping off like the Yale defender and then getting his touchdown called back, and just hearing just this like these shenanigans just reminds you that, like, you know, nerdy or not, you know, nerds or not, we're all just young folks, you know, just trying to have a good time. So great to hear. I'll be looking into the rivalry more for sure on Veterans Day weekend and whatnot.
Please, it's going to be awesome.
I'm sure your guys' ADs are thrilled, just paying every year. Hopefully you get to pay the fine for storming the field, right? So
is there a fine? Because we're going to rack up some money if that keeps going on, because we've been storming the field a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully not. But gosh. Brendan, you essentially were the run game at Bates, right? No one else actually even rushed for a touchdown during last season other than you. Was it difficult not really having that run support to rely on, or did it just make you a better quarterback?
I mean, so we have a very unique running back room. We had guys who did a lot of different things perfectly. Like, we had great guys who knew how to block. We had guys who knew how to run hard. We had guys who would leak out, because we're an air raid team. So we would throw the ball 30 to 40 times a game. So we had a lot of running backs that kind of did different things. And we had a young running back room. We had some older guys who kind of platooned the position. But I don't think they get the credit that they deserved, especially in the last game. And yeah, like, they wouldn't get a lot of rushing touchdowns, but they had a lot of rushing yards, and we rushed for over 1,000 yards as a team. So we had this package at the goal line that was really for me to kind of body my way into the end zone. But a lot of those yards getting there were either me passing or them running the football. So I think the stats can be a little misleading, because they didn't rush for a touchdown this year, but they had a lot of rushing yards in volume to kind of move the ball, especially on those third and shorts and those fourth and shorts. And we would trust them to get those yards. So I think the stats can be misleading, but I think we have a great running back room, and that's only going to get better for us running the football.
Absolutely. Hey, and those are the three most important things you can do as a running back. Obviously, run the ball, you can catch, and you can pass protect. If you can do all three of those, then you're pretty solid. Sounds like they can do all three. If they can get the ball down, close to the end zone, right? And then you can take care of the rest. And then obviously you have to pass protect if you're in an air raid system. And then I'm sure they're great at catching the ball as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So we had 3 or 4 guys that kind of rotated in, and like I don't think a lot of schools do that. A lot of schools maybe have 1 or 2 guys. So we had 3 or 4 guys rotating in different packages, and they all did a great job this year. Without them, we don't score as many points as we score for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess what I'm hearing is for the Bates running back room can direct their misgivings to Jackson for thinking because they didn't score any touchdowns, they weren't an efficient bunch. So that's what I'm hearing.
That's not at all what I said. No.
I'm just playing around, but yeah. So I guess going on into the All-Star game, your appearance in the HBCU Dream Bowl game that I've wanted to, me and Jackson joke around about, because he's got a girlfriend, I'm single. Type of things I can do is, just randomly go out to Roanoke MLK weekend and just watch a random All-Star game. What couldn't make it this year? Went to the Hula Bowl, but that's beyond me. But what was it like traveling to Virginia for a game after only playing in the Northeast for 4 years? Like, was that change of scenery great, even if it was just Roanoke, Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm from Boston, a little bit south of Boston. So taking that train ride down to Roanoke, Virginia was 14 hours. I went out of Providence because I live in Westport, Mass. So it's like it's closer to Providence than it is Boston. So taking that 14-hour train ride was not fun, to say the least. But once I landed in Roanoke, it was awesome. I mean, it was a great weekend. It got cut short because of a snowstorm, actually. So instead of being 4 days, it was only 2.5 days ish. But it was a great time. I really thank the guys who run the Dream Bowl for inviting me and allowing me to compete, because those guys do not play around. A lot of those guys are from D1, D1AA, D2, D3. And it was a great experience. It was freezing, and I loved every second of it because it felt like the Northeast. But it was a great time, and being able to win that game and hold up the trophy with my teammates and with my coaches. It was a great moment. And I definitely think you should try to make it a point to get out there and watch it, because it's an awesome game to see. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, at first, when I thought that you weren't doing the bowl any justice by mentioning how freezing it was, but I'm glad you made that point. So, I mean, right here, free endorsement to the Dream Bowl, for a free advertisement for the Dream Bowl. Buy an overcoat or 2, because it's not like the Hula Bowl. You're definitely not going to the Hula Bowl in Hawaii or Orlando. You're going to Roanoke, Virginia, and the Blue Ridge Mountains. But yeah, no, that's great to hear. Did you I guess, was it a big moment for the program to have an all-star? Sorry to hog the questions, Jackson. But I mean, was it like a big moment, just like Bates being so academically focused and the NESCAC being so academically focused, and reading the school's release, or I guess the student journalist story on you, was you were the first player to appear in that game, and I would assume any all-star game for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I was just grateful to be a part of it and be the first Bates Bobcat to be in the game. And I kind of felt going down there, I was representing my school, I was representing my program. And I always love doing that because it kind of adds an extra little piece to the game. And obviously I'm trying to pave the way for future Bobcats who also want to play in those games and kind of want to prolong their careers after they finish at Bates. So I was doing it just as much for them as I was doing it for myself. Because I'm obviously not going to turn down an invitation like that. I mean, it's a great honor, and obviously trying to pave the way for my teammates and for and kind of playing for past Bobcats who didn't get the same opportunity. It was truly a blessing, and I'm very proud to say that I did that for my school, honestly.
Absolutely. That's what all-star games are all about. Jackson and I, we have a conflict. I'm on the side of all-star games. He's a combine guy. And I think that is all you need to hear to know that all-star. Okay, you love all-star games, but you're
I love all-star games. I think I love all-star games in the fact that they give a huge opportunity to help you and your ultimate goal of reaching the National Football League, right? Senior Bowl is one of the best to do it. I think that's a really good place of all-star games to do that. I'm not anti all-star game, Omar. Cannot twist it.
Correction. Not anti All-Star game, but we have these conflict about like I'm not much of a Senior Bowl fan because it's so NFL centric. It feels like a preseason game. But just hearing that, just like the pride of the school on the line, it feels it's great to hear. It's refreshing. So I'm sorry, Jackson, for the incriminating statement, but yeah, okay, that's better. I mean, that's what makes All-Star games so great. Not the NFL audition, in my opinion.
I'm pro NFL Combine. Sue me, okay? Yeah, right?
I'm not.
Yeah. Brendan, I was not going to say that about your running back room without taking away a compliment as well. So Omar can tell you, I'm a big fan of pass catching running backs. I say it just about every week on the pod. If you can't catch, you can't play as a running back. Tell me a little bit about Christian Oliveri, right? So 15 receptions, over 350 receiving yards as a running back. That's a 23.5-yard average, 3 catching touchdowns, ridiculous pass catching numbers. And he's not half bad as a kick returner either. So tell me a little bit more about him.
I mean, I can't say enough about Christian. Kind of coming in, he's also kind of from a small Massachusetts high school, just like myself. But we use Christian as like the Swiss Army knife of our offense. I mean, we put him in the slot, we put him on the outside, we put him in the backfield. We run him on jet sweeps. Obviously, he's one of our kick returners, and I would put a lot of money on the line to say that he might be the fastest kid in the NESCAC, and he's at Bates. He's one of the most athletic kids I've ever seen. He has like a 35-inch vertical, like something ridiculous. Like he's a super athlete, and he's so quick. And once he gets his first step and he's kind of even with the receiver, I'm just going to let it go on him, especially if he's on the outside. But I know that if he's in the backfield with me, we have 5 legit receivers on the field that can, and especially if he's in the backfield, because he's going to be matched up on a linebacker. So if I'm looking down the field and my reads are a little foggy, I know that I'm going to have him matched up against a linebacker, and I'm going to take that 9 out of 10 times usually. So he was a great weapon for us, and he was actually the one that caught the pass that got us the record for passing yards in a season. And he was on the outside, but he's a phenomenal athlete, and he's going back next year for his last season. So definitely keep an eye out for Christian, because he's an absolute stud, that kid.
So he's not just catching swing routes and stuff like that and flats. He's running a full route tree out there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like Najee out there.
He's the perfect comparison to him. Obviously he's not as big, but he can even run the ball between the tackles too. Like he got us a lot of first downs running the ball, but his best asset, I think, was catching the ball down the field. He's just a different type of weapon. It's really tough to cover. It really is.
Can run the ball, can run a route tree, special teams formula for maybe a rookie next year. So can't wait to see him.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll see him in the Dream Bowl or a Tropical Bowl or like any All-Star game, honestly. Keep up the momentum that you started. So Brandon, going more again into, I guess, your pro aspirations, of course, obviously you being the great student athlete that you are coming from Bates, like, I guess a pro career isn't the first thing on your mind, because I mean, certainly like you'll have a way higher ceiling, like in the non-football sector, of course. But Bates has only had one NFL or AFL pick ever. And one player appeared in an NFL game, and that person was a scab in '87. Is that something you think about in your pro pursuit? Is that something that like drives you more to like kind of flip the page for Bates pro players?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a dream of mine, and obviously working this past off season after getting out of our final season and kind of realizing that I'm gonna have some opportunities to kind of pursue this dream. I'm doing it for myself, obviously, like this is my dream, but if I can help put Bates College's name all over the country, I will, and kind of give my guys who are still there right now, give them more opportunities after I'm gone. I would love for that to be kind of what I'm doing, kind of like what my purpose is after I left Bates. So definitely thinking about Bates whenever I'm at combines or whenever I'm at bowl games. And obviously I'm wearing their name across my chest. I always have something Bates on wherever I'm going. So definitely thinking about the guys that are coming after me and seeing if I can create more opportunities for them, because then that just benefits the program further.
Absolutely. And I mean, for the record too, I mean, we always got to throw in like the research aspect. The one draft pick was Tom Carr, 1966 graduate for the Boston Patriots. So it's been a while, but man, I would love to see you like, make it for Bates and, honestly, any league in general. And I mean, yeah, that's why I thought your story going to the Dream Bowl is one of the better stories of the All-Star Game season, just flew under the radar because how many people are paying attention to D3 ball? How many people, I mean, Jackson and I will joke about, the core group of people that find the story, but yeah, like, it's just a great story indeed. So Jackson, I'll kick it back to you.
Brennan, going back to your pro aspirations, I'm curious for everyone interested in following that. When's your pro day and where can we find the results of it?
Oh, I don't have a pro day actually.
Oh, really?
Okay. I don't. So I was talking to my offensive coordinator from Bates, and he said he's trying to get me into a certain pro day that I can't disclose the information just yet, just in case something happens. But I don't have a pro day. I was just at the National Scouting Combine in Indiana, and I'm kind of using that to create more opportunities, and hopefully I can get in. Hopefully I can get into the school's pro day. That would be nice. Obviously, there's not a lot of people who are going up to Maine and Bates and kind of watching a bunch of guys, because there was only a handful of seniors who were graduating from Bates. So unfortunately, Bates doesn't have a pro day. I wish they did. So definitely the smaller school kids are at a disadvantage because they have to kind of find their way in to the bigger school pro days. And to even do that, you have to have a lot of recommendations from other coaches, and you have to obviously pass their tests to kind of play with their players, because obviously they want to highlight their players, so they have to make sure that you're not just coming in to kind of fool around. So I wish we had a pro day, but sadly we don't. It's upsetting, but hopefully maybe in the future.
And plenty of regional scouting combines like you talked about. Hopefully you can get into another pro day. I know that there are plenty of schools out there that have had players from other schools come in. I'm a Gator, right? So I know Florida hosted the international pro day as well, where they had a bunch of about a dozen international kids that tried out. So hey, doesn't take away. If anything, it adds a little bit, right? And hopefully bring more people in. So hopefully they see it that way.
Hopefully.
Yeah, one more question I have, Brennan. I guess discussion point I have is like, in the position you're in, being a D3 guy. I've followed indoor football like my whole life. Been a fan. Like I have a hometown team in Albuquerque, Duke City Gladiators, and there's some electric quarterbacks that can really like move around in the pocket. And I don't want you to storm off and have you misconstrue my words as me saying like indoor football is your ceiling. But is that something that you like consider? Because a lot of small school guys get their start playing in like indoor football or like alternative leagues. And honestly, I think you'd be a great fit, in a sort of transition period for you as a player to bigger, better things. So is that something you've thought of?
Oh, 100%. I mean, when I was at the combine, I was talking to a lot of the indoor football league teams, and I think if I get the opportunity, like, why not? Like, I'm not the type of player to kind of shoot down an opportunity because I think I'm better than it. Obviously, I want to go as far as I can with a football, but if that's where my story takes me, then that's where I'm going. And if I can get some film and I can play good football at that level, because like what you said, that's a high level of football. People don't realize it. People always say, oh, it's the NFL, and then it falls off a cliff. I think any professional football league, it's legit football. Those kids are coming from all over the country, and they're legit athletes. And I kind of wish more people would realize that. But yeah, definitely. If I ever got an opportunity, I would highly consider it and probably end up taking it to kind of prolong my career, because it's tough coming from a small school and proving yourself, and then now you have to try to prove yourself on the pro level. So I think that could be a perfect stage for me to kind of take the next step in my football career.
I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad that you ended up not being angry at me about mentioning indoor football.
Of course not.
I mean, it's a bit of my guilty pleasure. I mean, I'm sure Jackson and other people will roast me for openly posting stuff about the indoor football league, whether it be like funny tweets or just like stuff on my Instagram story. Maybe one of the reasons I don't have a girlfriend, but I mean, I'm glad that you said that. And honestly, yeah, like the style of play is electric. You just being a great scrambler, just like it's honestly like a gunslinger too. I don't know if that's a fitting word for yourself.
I love
just
that.
like a gunslinger. Yeah,
I love it.
It fits.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
I was just gonna say the obvious story is Kurt Warner, right? But man, look at recently PJ Walker and Dearness Johnson, both guys that got their roots started and in lower leagues, and then found their way to the NFL and contributors. So I mean, it's like you said, just get some film and you're get some film on you in any professional league, and it definitely helps your chances. So
100%.
Brendan, I tell everyone that's willing to maybe play at a lower level, if you somehow find your way on the Tampa Bay Vipers, I'm the first in line to buy your jersey. So
let's go. Huge. Huge.
There's another point of conflict on the podcast.
Is there? That's
awesome. Another point of
conflict
conflict because I'm a USFL guy and they're starting now, and there's 2 Tampa Bay spring teams. One's gonna go? So. If you're on the Bandits, then I'll buy a jersey. So,
Bucks, Bandits, and Vipers. Why not, man? Why can't we have all 3?
I love it. That's awesome.
But I mean, I don't know if Jackson has any more questions. Brendan,
I'm all set. You've been so generous with your time. I appreciate you coming on.
Of course. It's good. It's like 9:43 p.m. in Eastern time right now, but I'm loving every second of it, guys. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you coming on late, man.
Of course. Thank you, Jackson. Appreciate it. Thanks, Omar.
Yeah, thank you, Brendan. I'm sorry about the late time. It's kind of hard coordinating with East Coast guests being in El Paso, but so I'm just sorry, but I appreciate it too. Thank you for spending your time and really spreading the word about Bates and the NESCAC too. I guess fans of D3 and just academically upright football. I guess it's good to have more support, more people spreading the word on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you for giving me the voice. I appreciate it. Someone's got to say it. Someone's got to say it.
Absolutely, yeah. Someone's got to say it to our 32 subscribers. Hopefully more in the future.
It's gonna go up. No worries, boys. You guys are awesome.
I hope so. All right. Thank you, Brendan, for your time. And until next time, Brendan Costa, name to remember in the draft circuit, or even in an indoor football league near you, on the rise and everything. So thank you again, Brendan. And until next time, peace, love, and soul.
Thanks, Omar. Thanks, Jackson.